Okay. So let's get back to transporting plants. All right. So apical meristems, these are specialized growth areas. If the apical meristem is broke off on either the shoot system or the root system, this could negatively affect the health of the plant going forward, because this is where the specialized growth area is. If that's broken off, the plant may not be able to continue to survive and grow. Okay, so the dermal tissue, this is the outer layer of the cells. This is important with regulating gas and matter exchange within the plant. In woody plants, so like trees and shrubs and stuff, the epidermis is covered by cork and bark instead of that like clear cuticle that we looked at in class last week. Okay, this is just review here. The ground tissue, this is the tissue that provides strength and support for the plant, and it is involved in water and food storage for the roots. And in leaves, this is the sites of photosynthesis, again, in those palisade tissue cells. Okay, I remember that because photosynthesis starts with a P, palisade tissue cells also starts with a P. So that's kind of how I remember that. Vascular tissue, this is how food and water is moved throughout the plant. So remember, food flows, so sugars move through phloem, and water moves through xylem. Okay. And root hairs increase surface area for absorption of water and nutrients. Guard cells control gas exchange in the leaves. And now we are on to topic 3.2. This is what this is our topic for the day. Okay, it's a short one. You guys are going to have an assignment. I will post that to the Google Classroom right after this lesson, and that will be it for today. Okay. In regards to completing assignments, I would stay on top of them as well as watching the videos as much as you can. Just it's going to be easier to not fall behind doing it that way. All right. So the leaf and photosynthesis, we have kind of touched on this throughout, even in the chemistry unit, we talked about it a little bit. And in the, we've briefly talked about it. Sorry, I just see. That's, everybody's good? Okay. Just wanted to make sure. All right, let's go back to here. Okay, so we have briefly talked about photosynthesis a couple times this year, but now we're going to get into it. Okay, so for photosynthesis to occur, first we need light energy from the sun. Okay, that is going to be on the reactant side of the reaction. That will provide the energy required for actually carbon dioxide to be split on a molecular level, and then that is how oxygen is created. And as glucose molecules are broken and created, that ATP molecule is going to be transported throughout the plant, so the plant can use that energy for growth and reproduction. So within the leaf, there is a collection of tissues involved in this process. So first we have dermal tissue. This is going to prevent water loss. In particular, the stomata in the guard cells are responsible for regulating that gas exchange. This is a really important slide, so maybe put a star or something like that. Just make sure you're able to know the types of tissue that are involved with photosynthesis, okay? So the dermal tissue, this is the outermost tissue on plants, so that prevents water loss. Vascular tissue, this is responsible for transporting the products of photosynthesis, so water and sugars throughout the plant. And ground tissue. So remember, the ground tissue is not necessarily the tissue that's found in the ground. Okay, this is the tissue that is not the vascular tissue or the dermal tissue in the leaves. And this is where photosynthesis occurs. So this is in the palisade tissue cells as well, okay? So make sure you know this slide pretty well, okay? So photosynthesis, this is carried out by all plants in the chloroplasts. That is probably, that's a big take home. Just make sure that you know that photosynthesis occurs in the chloroplasts. Essentially, all of our food is based on this, right? So even if we trace this back far enough, if you're reading that line, you're just like, I eat only meat, right? And that's fine. But if you trace that back far enough, right? Like cows eat grass-fed diets, right? Or grain-fed or whatever type of diet they're based. But all of that essentially comes from a plant in one sense or another, okay? That is kind of like the base of the food chain is plants. You guys will learn about this if you get into, if you decide to take Bio 30. But is what actually happens, so I'm just going to draw a little image here. It's called a food pyramid. And you guys may have seen this in other science classes as well. So at the bottom, you're going to have your like primary producers. So that'll be your plants. Then you'll have your secondary producers. So those are which eat the plants. So like rabbits and deers and stuff like that. And at the top of the pyramid, you're going to have your predators, like your eagles and your wolves and stuff like that. As you jump from one level to another in these food pyramids, you lose approximately 90% of the food energy in there. So let's say that for the plants to grow, they require 100 joules of energy. Now, if a deer eats 100% of that grass, so if it eats 100 joules of that grass energy, only 10% of that will be available for the deer for like growth and like of the deer. So for the deer to grow and kind of like locomote in its environment and interact with its surroundings, only 10% is available for that. So it's actually like really inefficient as we go from one level to another in these food pyramids, because only 10% of that energy is able to go from one level to another. So in theory, if we all stopped eating cows or other types of animals that feed on the primary producer level, we would have potentially 90% more food. Now, I don't want to give that up. I like chicken wings. I like steaks, right? But that's just something that we can consider as we go forward. That if we can kind of shift away from eating as much meat as we do, especially here in Alberta, that could be a potential solution for some of the energy issues that we're going to be coming across in the future. Okay, so in photosynthesis, light energy is converted into chemical energy. So that chemical energy is in the form of glucose. Okay, and the balance, so here's our word reaction. So think back of our chemistry unit. Our word reaction is water plus carbon dioxide will produce glucose and oxygen. So in the presence of chlorophyll and light, that chemical reaction will occur. And because we are awesome at balancing chemical equations now, we're going to use the balanced chemical equation for photosynthesis. So that's 6H2O plus 6CO2, so 6 carbon dioxides, to give us glucose, which is C6H12O6, and oxygen. Remember, oxygen is a diatomic molecule, so it has a little 2 on it. We will not see it as a monoatomic atom there. Okay, make sure you guys know this balanced chemical equation for photosynthesis, okay? This is important, and if you're taking Bio 20, this will be kind of a good foundation. You will examine photosynthesis in depth in that class. Okay, photosynthesis occurs in the presence of sunlight, carbon dioxide, and water, and it produces glucose and oxygen. This is really important for us. We eat glucose and we breathe oxygen, but we inhale oxygen and exhale carbon dioxide, so we're quite lucky there. Okay, so this image here is just kind of showing the complementary. So photosynthesis and cellular respiration, we actually consider these to be complementary chemical reactions. And what I mean by complementary is that the reactants of photosynthesis are actually the products of cellular respiration, and kind of vice versa there. So we'll start right here at the top for photosynthesis. So it takes in light, it takes in carbon dioxide, and it takes in water. And then it's going to, so those are the reactants, and then the products are going to be glucose and oxygen. In animals, and actually in plant cells as well, every organism has mitochondria, okay? But just for simplicity's sake, this occurs in like animal cells. So us right now, we're burning the glucose that we had for breakfast. We're inhaling that oxygen that is present in the air. And then we are exhaling carbon dioxide and water and also heat, right? So if you exercise for a long period of time, your body temperature increases, right? That's just one way that energy is kind of lost during this process, okay? So then that cycle continues. That carbon dioxide and water that we exhale will be taken up by the leaves of plants, and again, they will produce glucose and oxygen, completing that cycle there, okay? We say that these two chemical reactions are complementary of one another because the products of photosynthesis are the reactants of cellular respiration, and then the products of cellular respiration are going to be the reactants of photosynthesis, okay? So know that these two processes, so photosynthesis and cellular respiration, are complementary of one another. Okay, so cellular respiration. So this is just our last slide for the day. So cellular respiration, this is going to occur in the mitochondria in both plant and animal cells. So glucose that is produced during photosynthesis must be broken down into ATP. This is the energy currency of cells. Remember our analogy from class last week is that like a glucose molecule is like $100 bill, and the vending machine, which is your body, does not accept $100 bills. We need to break that $100 bill into coins, so ATP, which is like the energy currency of cells. There's too much energy in a molecule of glucose, so that needs to be broken down into something that is that has less energy, that's can be processed by our cells. So ATP, this will provide the energy needed by the cell to carry out life processes, so like growth and replication. So this is the word reaction for cellular respiration. So we have glucose and oxygen to produce carbon dioxide, water, and energy. And the balanced chemical reaction for that is C6H12O6, which is glucose, plus oxygen, again, diatomic molecule, to produce carbon dioxide, water, and energy. All right. So the big take home between cellular respiration and photosynthesis is that they are complementary reactions of one another. Okay, so I will expect you to know and have memorized the chemical equation for cellular respiration. Okay, and again, it's just the opposite of photosynthesis. So if you know one, you know the other. Okay. All right. So we will stop there for the day. So I'm just going to end the recording.